Hello there everybody, it's Mark Watson here. Just going to make a short video in relation to some posts that I've put on Facebook in recent weeks. They've been seen as racist because I've been talking about Muslim extremists. I just want to clarify the point that I do not have anything against moderate peaceful Muslims, but I do have issues with extremists. The simple fact of the matter is that this country seems to be tolerating Muslim extremism more and more and more. And I, like most people, are getting fed up with it. That's why the reason why I voted for UKIP. The simple fact of the matter is that when you come here, you integrate to our way of life. If we went over to Pakistan and tried to get them to tolerate our values, they wouldn't take it. It works both ways. It also annoys me of the way that the laws have been in recent years. It is, for example, illegal to burn a Quran. And it is also illegal, technically, to burn a Bible or a British flag. But has anyone ever been arrested for doing that, especially on the protests? I've not seen it. Also, from where I live as well, I've seen numerous people doing demonstrations, and also I've seen it in London, where you've had groups of Islamist fanatics who've been running down the road, UK go to hell, Britain go to hell, George Bush go to hell, Britain's gonna burn, USA go to hell, blah 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 blah. You get the idea. Hang on a minute, that's incitement to murder, isn't it? Isn't that a hate crime? And yet hardly anything gets done about that. Indeed, there was a case a few years ago in my local area got well known for this, because unfortunately my home area is known for harbouring fanatics, albeit not all of them are fanatical. Some brave soul jumped up out of the crowd and said it quite simply, and I'm going to say what he said, hence the reason why I'm laughing, because he was telling the truth. He said, if you don't like it here, you know what to do. Fuck off back to where you came from. Now, we had all of these Muslims were burning British flags and holding up banners. Islam's going to dominate the world. Oh, Britain's going to burn. We need to use Sharia. All inciting racial hatred. They weren't touched. The bloke that shouted that thing, however, that I've just said, what happened? Oh dear. He got jumped on. And he was arrested. For inciting racial hatred. But yet all of these lunatics are doing exactly the same thing and they don't get touched. No one is a racist for not objecting to extremism. If there is such a law, then can you please show it to me? Why is it offensive to burn? Why is it illegal, for example, to burn a Bible, whereas if you burn a Quran, you get done for it? How does that work out? And there's other security issues as well. Some people said to me regarding a post that I made, because I put about banning the burqa, and I do honestly believe that we should ban it. Why? Because it's a security threat. For those of you who remember the bombings in London on the 21st of July, 2 weeks after 7/7, one of the terrorists that was involved in that escaped. How did he escape? Because he was wearing a burqa, or a niqab as it's also known. The niqab doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with Islam. The niqab is a tribal garment that's found its way into mainstream Islam and tends to be used, believe it or not, to control women. Islam says that women should be dressed modestly, and that's fair enough. But there's no need to cover your face in a mobile tarpaulin. Why is it, for example, right, that you can go into a bank wearing a burqa, but you can't go into a bank with a hoodie on, with a hood up, or wearing a motorcycle helmet? We all know why that is. It's because you can't be identified. The burqa causes the same problem. So how's that allowed? Because it is. 40% of British Muslims in this country want to live under Sharia. And that is a minority, admittedly. But the problem is, especially in places like the Tower Hamlets, is that you will have there are areas now where they are Muslim areas, and they use Sharia. Sharia doesn't have any place at all whatsoever in Europe. Sharia discriminates against women. There is no place at all for Sharia law in Britain. If you want to live under Sharia law, then you know what to do. Emigrate to a country that allows Sharia law. Don't try and force it on us here. Unfortunately, what with the way that the UK is becoming, wanting to show tolerance and diversity, there are thousands of Sharia courts operating here under the backing of the law. And yet they discriminate against females. That's a breach of human rights. Another thing that annoys me as well is with polygamy. That's illegal in Britain. It's illegal in most of the developed world. But if you're a Muslim, you appear to be able to get away with it. How does that work out? Not all Muslims are like this. Most Muslims I know, to be fair, are perfectly reasonable people. Majority of them I know have integrated into society. They've got themselves jobs. They're working as taxi drivers, or working in local corner shops, or working in the local takeaways. Most of them are very happy people, very polite. And they want to integrate it into Western society. The majority of them, believe it or not, actually came here to escape Sharia law. But 40% of Muslims here want to live under that law. Well, you know what to do. There was a protest outside the palace a few years ago now. I'll put a link in the description. That said about how to have Muslims, albeit extremists, admittedly, were standing outside the palace saying we need to adopt Sharia here and blah blah blah. Now the person, one of the interviewers, got hold of one of the Muslims and said, "But what about the Queen?" "Well, she can become a Muslim. If she doesn't, she can leave." No. Oh, no. You've got your priorities wrong there, Sonny. You don't want to live in our way of life? You leave. It isn't exactly helped by the fact that also whenever we hear about these reports, that we always seem to go back to and speak to a very well-known Islamist twit called Ahandi Chowdhury, or Andem Chowdhury as he's known. He's a great model for extremist Islam. And yet we tolerate this idiot. He is nothing other than a benefit scrounging idiot. And that's putting it mildly. Indeed, there was a case of a protest in London that was done by Muslim extremists where it was showing they had all their flags out, and there was a controversy around it because there was a little girl, she was about 11, 12 years old, was dressed in a burqa. And Adam Chowdhury said, well, it's usual for us to carry that flag, it's a symbol of conquest. Now that's not technically correct. It's only the black and possibly the white that are used for conquest. The green one tends to be used for peaceful reasons. And that's the way it should be. Most Muslims that I know of are able to read between the lines in the Quran. Because the Quran, like the Bible, does contain violent verses and peaceful verses. And most Muslims I know look at the peaceful verses. In actual fact, there was one Muslim I knew. I was very, very good friends with her. She was half Muslim, half Christian. And I would talk about these things with her all the time. I can't do her anymore because she's unfortunately dead. He died of a brain tumour last year. But there's also another Muslim that I used to go to school with. And she's very down to earth. Because he was brought up to follow Islam and to respect other religions. That's the way it should be. My issue is with the extremists that we keep on hearing about in the news. And I know that when I put several posts on Facebook that via friends, I had people saying to me, well, so-and-so who's deleted you off their page because their Muslim friends are offended. Right? Get a load of this. I don't care. Most of us are fed up of hearing about Muslims taking offence. They seem to take offence at the most knee-jerkest of things. The record is stuck. We've been hearing that excuse for years and years and years, and most of us don't care anymore. We do not care. The simple fact of the matter is that it's the extremists that I have the issue with. And there is extremism in all religions. Christians, Muslims, all have records of it. All religions do. Does that mean that any of us are any better? Of course it doesn't. But when you have people taking offence to even the mildest thing, it's ridiculous. The murder of Lee Rigby a couple of years ago was done by two Islamic lunatics who have thankfully been thrown where they belong. One of them quoted the Quran as his justification. And the weird thing that angered me was that when people like myself spoke out against these idiots, right? There were reports coming in all around that there was a pensioner was thrown in prison, thrown to a prison cell for citing racial hatred. So how is it acceptable? This is my question. For these extremist lunatics, and it's not all Muslims, it's a small handful of extremist lunatics, to go around burning Bibles, the UK flag, the American flag, shouting things like nuke Denmark, Britain go to hell, USA go to hell. Is that not citing racial hatred? There has also been a surge as well in so-called honour killings, certainly in Britain. This is something that Sharia tolerates. And yet most people, including Muslims, see it for what it is. It's a barbaric method of control. That's why most Muslims here in Britain have come here to try and escape it. I don't have problems with any religion practicing, as long as they don't try and force themselves on the country that they're in. And that appears to be happening, certainly in Britain. And the problem is that every time that you speak out of it, oh God, that's Islamophobic, that's racist. Yeah, we've heard that too many times. It doesn't wash anymore. Doesn't wash. These extremist nutters need to realise that we are not going to stand up for this anymore. That's why parties such as UKIP, Britain First, and the BNP got such a huge vote in the local elections recently. And people have been saying that they're far right and extremist. Britain First is an anti-extremist Islam. About the other two, they're anti-extremist. Have they got other far-right policies? I'm going to be fair, I'm not sure, because I've not looked into it. So this rant is basically aimed at the extremists. Right? Integrate to UK life, or if you want to live under Sharia and live in a society that's 1400 years backwards, okay, do us all a favour and go somewhere that allows that. It's not Islamophobic to be against extremism. That's my rant over. I've got nothing against Muslims at all. I've got several Muslim friends, and quite a few of them are very helpful, peaceful people. That is the way that it should be. It's the extremists that are the issue here. And to be fair, even the most moderate, peaceful Muslims, they've had enough of this as well. Extremists, if you don't like it here, be warned. We are ready for you. We are going to fight back against you. That's why UKIP got such a large vote. Because we're fed up with all of this. It's the extremists that are the issue. And they're tarnishing moderate, peaceful Muslims. And that is a disgrace. It doesn't exactly help either that there have been instances where the media has used Islam to spread nonsense. That is known. So the media isn't exactly helping with that either. But my problem is with Muslim extremists. It's not with moderate, peaceful Muslims. I'm fed up with all these extremists demanding special privileges. If you don't like the way that we live here, then leave. You might say that it's a breach of your human rights. UK law says you're welcome here provided you accept the law of the land. And some of you are not doing that. You're trying to force your way of living on us. And we're not going to have it anymore. We've sat down and taken it for too long. Extremism is the issue here. And I know that most people will agree with the points that not only I've made, but that have been made before all this by others, even including moderate, peaceful Muslims. Extremism of any type has no place in civilized society.